Hi everyone, and just to welcome you back to your fourth year of your studies at UWS. So this is the fourth year for computer games development, so your honours year or level 10 of the Scottish Credit and Qualifications Framework. And firstly, I'd just like to congratulate you on getting to this level for a start. Because it is quite an accomplishment. So you've all basically gotten managed to achieve a degree already. So well done, fantastic. Anyway, I have elected for a Super Mario Odyssey theme for these slides because essentially I've got it coming today and I'm super excited about it. Alexa, where's my stuff?
A package for T's order, placed on the 27th of September, should arrive today. Containing Super Mario Odyssey.
Oh, yes, I can't wait. Just recently bought a Switch. Anyway, so I'm Thomas Haney, and as you probably all know, and this is a quick induction video, just in case anyone misses it, with all the sort of relevant material that you need to get started. So the content of the presentation, what is it really about? What modules you're going to be doing, who's who, you probably know the majority of this already. How things are going to work this year. Obviously, this is going to be quite a difficult year in terms of delivery and in terms of study, I suppose, because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We find ourselves in unprecedented times, and we'll just have to, unfortunately, play it a bit by ear, or as best we can. So I'll say a little bit about that. Where is everything? Is it really particularly relevant to you guys? Probably not. Unless we get back into the campus at some stage, and I assume you know where everything is. Anyway, so who am I? You probably know who I am anyway. I'm Dr. Thomas Haney. I'm a number of things, but for you guys, I'm your year 4 leader of computer games development. I'm also your program leader. And I'm a lecturer on a number of modules. Specifically for this year, in the fourth year, I'm the lecturer of serious games, or the module coordinator. And I'm also going to be supervising probably a good half of you for the computer games honours project as well, in order to assist Gavin anyway. So you may refer to me as any of those names, so Tommy, Thomas, or Tom. I respond to all three, just as long as you get that little noise in there, like a meerkat. So that's fine. Oh, and that's what I look like when, in fact, I was allowed back in to my office, or when I was back in my office, and I'm next to Pennywise the clown there. I can simulate the experience now because here he is here. Yay! So you kind of know what I look like anyway. There's my hair. I haven't lost it. Good stuff. So I oversee your entire degree at the university. This was really mainly for the first years, and I still sort of oversee the entire year. At the end of the year, it is me that has to go to the Programme Awards Board on your behalf, I suppose, or to represent you. So my contact details are as follows. There's my email address that you know already. This year, I'm also giving out my mobile phone number, so that if anybody has any issue whatsoever, please feel free to contact me, or just give me a phone as you would in the office, if I were in the office anyway. So feel free to phone me between 9 to 5 on a Monday to Friday. I've actually no difficulty with you phoning me at any point. Not that anyone will. I know that millennials tend to be afraid of phone calls, or at least I was discovering that at the induction that I had for the first years on Monday. But anyway, any slight issues at all with your modules or anything, then please do feel free to give me a call and I'll sort it out. The only reason I'm sort of giving my mobile number this year is because regardless of what you do, if you email the hub, you email a year leader or whatever. Oh, I am the year leader, or you email the hub, or you email anyone, or the school, whatever. It generally comes to me anyway. So there's my LinkedIn profile as well. Feel free to connect with me on that, and that's another mechanism for you to send me messages if you so desire. Also this year we're going to be using Discord. That's my sort of Discord username. So we can have discussions over Discord. I assume that that'll probably happen for the serious games module, and perhaps a little bit And definitely for the computer games honours supervision, you'll probably be wanting to speak to me at some stage face to face, so to speak, for that. So as I was saying to the first years, I am a mentor, friend, and supreme overlord of the programme. And I say that because it's entirely true. Nothing happens in this programme without me knowing about it, and every single little insignificant problem becomes mine. So if you email the hub, it comes to me. If you complain to Gavin, he tells me. If you email Gavin, he tells me. And it's the same with the rest of the lecturers on the programme as well. So I basically know everything, so you might as well just come to me to start with. Okay, fantastic. That's what I look like again, as if you needed to know that. Right, next. So here's the programme specification link, which you've seen already, or you're probably familiar with throughout the years. And what I want to emphasize, and what I want you to do, is for you to familiarize yourself with that and make absolutely certain that you're in the correct modules and you know exactly what you're doing this year, because some of the modules will be asynchronous. So look at the program specification, make absolutely certain that you know exactly what you're doing, and we'll have a look at it in a moment. In terms of assessment regulations in honours year are particularly important because this is the distinction year, and the assessment regulations that apply to you are there in section 7.5.1, and this will outline entirely how you get your distinction in your honours degree. So do familiarise yourself with it. These things, the programme specification combined with the assessment regulation or regulations, is really like a contract more than anything else. So as long as you're familiar with these things, you won't sort of come a cropper, so to speak. Okay, so this is what the programme specification looks like for level 10. So this particular year, you've got to pass Computer Games Honours Project, Serious Games, and Web Games Development 2. And these are the core modules. I've since removed collaborative virtual environments from the programme. It's now gone. We have as options Computer Games Development, Games Console Development, I beg your pardon, HCI and User Experience Design, Immersive Technologies, and Professional Portfolio Production. And really, it depends on what particular options you're wanting to take for that. Now, I know that a lot of you have enrolled, but I do emphasize that you should read the module descriptor and make absolutely certain that those are the modules that you're wanting to be doing, because this is not a year to be trying anything that's going to, shall we say, really challenge you or perplex you. This is probably a year to try and play it a little safe, particularly with regards to the marks. Now, Games Console Development has a lot of C++ in it, and it's quite a difficult module, despite the fact that it does probably sound as if it's going to be rather fun. So do think about that. I can change your modules, but don't leave it too late to try and change them. HCI and User Experience Design is probably quite an easy module and quite a safe module. So I would recommend that if you struggle with coding and things like that. Immersive Technologies, that's going to be virtual reality. How they're actually going to deliver that this year, I'm unclear. That'll be up to the module coordinator, who is Marco Gilardi. And then professional portfolio production, that's another option as well. So you'll notice at the top you have 80 credits, so you have the option of taking 2 modules in order to make up your 120 credits in order to get your honours degree. Okay. As you know, all University of the West of Scotland degrees are modular. You'll notice from the last slide that the only module that is worth 40 credits this year is the honours module. So Computer Games Honours Project is worth 40 credits. The rest of the modules are worth 20 credits. Okay, there are no 10 credit modules this year, and you have to get the full 120 credits. Actually, in the programme specification, if you're familiar with it, you have to get 120 credits at each level before you're actually given any form of degree. Okay, but since you've sort of made it into the honours year already, that should be fairly clear cut. There should be no difficulty with credits. As long as you've managed to get into this year, you should have all the credits necessary to get a degree regardless of what happens now. So this is like bonus time, I would say, and a chance to shine. Okay. Okay, so online access, you know all of this stuff. I'm not going to belabor the point. You do have a link there in the slides to have a look at. You've got your MyDay, that's the student portal. The My UWS virtual learning environment is what we're sort of using. It's sort of Moodle replacement, not replacement, but substitute this year is Moodle, just sort of rebranded. And that's where all your course material will invariably appear. Now, I will say, do try to be a bit patient with academics this year, because we are, for level 7, moving over to a new system. We've also got to record an awful lot and things like that. So there's an awful lot of preparation that goes into putting all of these things on the My UWS site. So do be patient, and we'll try and get everything up as soon as we can on a weekly basis. And as quickly as we can, but the courses don't really start until the 5th of October. So if you're having difficulty accessing Moodle, or you think you're having difficulty accessing Moodle or UWS at the moment, it shouldn't be an issue, because we haven't really started yet, okay? But everything will eventually come through in the fullness of time. If we're going to have difficulty with these online systems, we will invariably just email you things, and we'll find other mechanisms. As I say, we're going to have to play it by ear. We've got a new system in place at the university, and we've also got to record everything for this pandemic as well. Okay, right, so my journey, that's another thing that you're fully familiar with. It's fine. Self-service banner, you should be fully familiar with that anyway. I want to emphasize that you'll be able to access your grades and everything there, but also have a look at all the modules that you're on, and that will tell you the trimesters that you're supposed to be actually attending these particular modules this year. So make sure you're fully familiar with that, okay? Right, your student email. Do pay attention to your student email this year. Staff members will be in contact with you in due course. The module coordinators of every module that's going to be asynchronous, that means it's not going to appear on the timetable, and it will be, the material will be delivered in due course. Will be in contact with you to tell you how the modules are going to be run once everything sort of starts. But you have to pay attention your student email, and you have to actually, I know it's difficult, but start to read them. Now, Gavin has been on at me a number of times this morning saying that he sent information out already, and he's made it perfectly clear about when things are going to start, and people are still asking, when does the Computer Games Honours project start? And that's going to be the 5th. So make sure you read these emails. I know there's an awful lot of, rubbish emails that come out from the institution perhaps, but do make sure that you try to read them and keep up to date with them, and you'll try to limit the amount of information, put it that way. So your online access, you know the banner ID, you know all about the banner ID, self-service banner, Moodle, My UWS. You've got everything sort of there. You know full well that if you have any difficulty, email the hub. If you do email the hub, it just comes to myself anyway. It goes to the school, and then someone in the school forwards it on to me, and I eventually sort of end up with it. So you might as well just pick up the phone or email me directly. Now, when you do email me, I'm trying to be as responsive as possible, but I am running an entire program. I've got 4 modules of my own, and I'm also doing a lot of research projects as well. So emailing me sometimes won't get a response, because I get so many in a day, and I can only respond to about 25 of them, and then I'm done. Otherwise, I wouldn't do any work. So if it is pressing, then I haven't gotten back to you, I apologise for that, but just pick up the phone or email me again, and eventually we'll try and get everything sort of sorted. Okay. Yeah. Next thing, email. University will send you important communication. Make sure you check it regularly. Do make sure that you read it. Okay. The terms / trimesters are pretty much the same as usual. October to January is going to be the first trimester or term this year, then February to May perhaps. Then if there are any resets, they have to be done before you're going to graduate, particularly in honours year. Try not to have any resets in honours year, because it does become a bit of a worry. Okay, so try to pass everything first time, obviously. If you do have resets, as I say, it's not entirely the end of the world, but they have to be addressed quickly before you're actually sort of allowed to graduate. If you find that you've got one module to reset, you'll find yourself in a little bit of a limbo, because the university will not give you the degree, or give you they can't give you the sort of normal undergraduate degree. So they will wait until you've graduated with the honours before they send you out the certificate. Now, one thing about employers is they do in fact want the full certificate. It's not sufficient just to send a transcript and say, I will invariably get this qualification. So it doesn't quite work that way. So it's better to have the certificate in your hand, and then you can get on with the next stage of your life, so to speak. Okay. Generally, there are 3 modules per term, as you sort of know, because of what's sort of happening with the pandemic, and because of asynchronicity, and depending on the options that you've actually selected, it may be slightly off balance this time. If you go into self-service banner, you'll see exactly what you're supposed to be sitting. Now, that could be term 1 or term 2. It should sort of slightly balance out, but this is only 1 year of your life, so do sort of knuckle down and get on with it and give it your best shot. I will say this about the sort of COVID thing. Although it's a terrible situation, it should possibly be viewed with a little bit of optimism, in a sense, because although you're not allowed to go and socialise and have the sort of best part of the university, at least we can probably just say we're just going to work this year and knuckle down and sort of get it done. And also, because of the nature of it all, we've been told to be very, very creative with assessments and things like that, and the university may in fact instigate some form of emergency procedures when it comes to awarding degrees, as they did at the last graduation. Okay, so computer games development core modules. You're going to be sitting the computer games honours project, which is 40 credits, which runs trimester 1 and 2. For this, you're going to be given a supervisor, and there's also a moderator. The supervisor is either going to be myself or Dr. Baxter. And we'll try to sort of split it up and give you the best supervision that we possibly can from afar. Last time it was sort of, because COVID-19 sort of hit around about sort of March, we were still providing lots of feedback and support to the honours students anyway via Discord, and it did work out rather well. So everything was kind of all right. It's a major piece of work. It's going to be running asynchronously. We're going to have as many progress meetings as we possibly can, and we will do our best. Serious Games is my module. It's worth 20 credits. It runs in the first trimester. I'll be in contact with you about that. I normally run it on a Tuesday. And I normally would, that doesn't mean it's going to be running on a Tuesday, but what I mean by that is I will put up the material and I'll keep my sort of normal academic timetable going at this time. So I'll put up the material on a Tuesday, and then we can sort of arrange meetings and things like that if we require them, or if you believe you require them. Okay, and we'll try and support you that way as well. Web Games Development, that runs trimester, Web Games Development 2, that runs trimester 1 as well. Okay, and that I believe is going to be run synchronously, so I believe that should appear on your timetable. Okay, it's very, very important that is the most important one. So the Computer Games Honours project is worth the majority of the marks for this entire year. Okay, right, next. Okay, we have these are the optional modules that you may select. Games console development is worth 20 credits. That runs in trimester 2. HDI and user experience and design is in trimester 1. Immersive technologies trimester 2, and professional portfolio production trimester 2. So it kind of depends what you're sort of wanting to do. If you're wanting to challenge yourself, then games console development is absolutely fine. HCI and user experience design, probably an easier module, less programming involved. It's more to do with human-computer interaction, as the name suggests. Immersive technology, I'm not entirely certain how Marco is going to run that module with things like VR headsets and things like that. I would imagine it's just a bit of design this year, but we need to sort of check with him. What is supposed to be it does run in trimester 2. The possibility may exist that this actually manages to resolve itself. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with COVID-19. I'm not God, unfortunately. So we don't know if we'll actually gain access to the campus in trimester 2. Could very well be a thing, could not. Okay, professional portfolio production, that's in trimester 2 as well, and that's really about coming up with a professional portfolio. That's run by Mark Carey. So it really depends on what you're wanting to do this year. If you've selected a bunch of modules, and do read the module descriptor, and make sure that that's exactly what you're wanting to do. As I say, this is not a year to play fast and loose with, okay, I'm going to take a risk and try a module that's going to severely challenge me, because it is all down to the marks, and that's where you get your distinction. But I suppose at the flip side of the coin, you may wish to, hone your skills in a particular direction, or you may wish to challenge yourself. That is entirely up to you, but I'm quite happy to change your modules if you decide that a module is too challenging for you, or you're wanting to do another one or not challenging enough. So, okay, but let me know. Okay, module delivery. Modules appearing in the timetable are going to be delivered synchronously and online, so in real time. So if you have in fact got a bunch of that's very, very confusing this year, because some modules that you've selected will be appearing in your timetable and some won't. So the ones that are appearing are synchronous online delivery. They are in real time, and you are attending them like in Microsoft Teams or Zoom as you would normally, and it should normally be a sort of lecture lab or whatever. I know that's what Paul's doing for game console development. I think he's doing a lecture and then a sort of lab. Okay. Modules not appearing in the timetable, like serious games and computer games honours project, are being delivered asynchronously, so they're not in real time and they won't actually appear in the timetable. But you should be working on them, and you should be looking at the material and attending them. And attending them, I say, putting work into them, like 8 hours a week or 10 hours a week. This is honours year, 20 hours a week, but make sure that you're actually working on them. Check with the module coordinator how that will be run this term. They will inform you. I know for a fact that serious games is going to be asynchronous. Therefore, I'm going to be delivering a lecture that's going to be a recording of me prancing around my living room. I'll deliver the slides. I'll also talk you through the slides in a recording, which I'm quite happy to do. And then I'm willing to sort of meet with you online. And that's really all I've got for that particular module. That's the way I'm going to run it. And that is generally on a Tuesday that I will do that. Students will generally work remotely on coursework. There will be very, very little access to the campus. I mean, you've all seen what sort of happened in Glasgow University. That clock it's finally stopped. 11 chimes. Sorry, I beg your pardon, it's 12 o'clock, so it's 12 chimes that's just done. And it's just totally thrown me off. So you've seen what's happened in Glasgow University and Abertay, and how all of the students are having to go into self-isolation. So obviously there's going to be very, very limited access to the campus this year, in adherence with what the Scottish Government has laid down as the sort of law. So each lecturer will explain how contact is to be maintained, and stay in contact with the lecturer during the module. We'll give you as much support as we possibly can. Okay. So how to be certain of your modules? Go on to self-service banner, look at your registration history, and make absolutely certain that you know which modules you're on in order to attend these ones that are asynchronous. Now, in terms of engagement, I'm quite happy just to accept assessments for my modules. Attendance obviously can't be a thing because there's no way of measuring that this time. So, who's who? I'm Thomas Haney. I'm the program leader. I'm your lecturer for Serious Games and your Year 4 leader. So that's me there at the top. And quite frankly, I'm the most handsome out of the lot of them. Okay. Then there's Gavin Baxter, Computer Games Honours Project. He's the sort of main man there. He actually is probably in charge of the majority of your marks, okay? Dr. Marco Gilardi, he's going to be running Immersive Technologies. Dr. Paul Keir is Games Console Development. These people should be fairly familiar to you anyway. You'll have encountered them at some stage. And then there's Dr. Mark Carey. He's Professional Portfolio Production. Dr. Derek Turner will be running Web Games Development 2. He's the module coordinator for that. And Alan Williams will be helping to deliver it. So that's all the faces that you should really know for this year. There's Kostas Iliopoulos, and I could not find a picture of him for love nor money, but he runs the HCI User Experience Design course if you're taking that. So that's really everyone that you should know. Okay. Where is everything? You've been on the campus before, and I doubt we're going to get into the campus this year, so let's face it, who cares? Where is everything? If we get back, it would be quite nice. And here's a sort of aerial view with everything again. I quite like this because it says, "Ooh, here's the labs that we're never going to be in." And here, eat here, don't eat anywhere in the campus. That's what I say. If you're going to eat anywhere, eat in Cardozzi's, because at least it's a nice, reputable restaurant. The Student Union are doing something kind of weird. I feel sorry for you guys this year, particularly the first years, because all the freshers are having to sort of stay at home, and you're thinking, oh, that was my day. It was a party. And as you can see, all the students at Glasgow University, I mean, to actually lay down a list of regulations and expect a bunch of drunken students to adhere to them, it was probably quite misguided. But anyway, the Student Union are doing a sort of, they're there, they're online, they're virtual, you can still attend if you want, if indeed game students go to the Student Union, and I don't think they do. Okay, so library. There might be some access to the library, although it may be limited. It depends on the resources that you actually require. Lectures will probably be remotely online, the majority of them, asynchronous, and if they're on the timetable, then they're synchronous and you just appear at a particular time as you normally sort of would online in Microsoft Teams or whatever. As usual, the modules can be a mixture of lectures, labs, and tutorials. I was saying to the first years that if the labs sort of fail in terms of, what was it, programming with objects, so if the labs sort of fail with Microsoft Visual Studio Community Edition 2019, and some people can't actually work that sort of thing at home, then we could go back to old-fashioned tutorials. Well, people actually write stuff again, but hopefully it won't come to that. So it'll be lectures, labs, tutorials, the usual practical coursework. Okay. As you know, the timetable is a bit like Swiss cheese at the minute because the synchronous modules are appearing, asynchronous modules aren't, and that should have been made clear. I can only apologise that should have been made clear at the beginning for all students across the university. There's module descriptors that you can have a look at, and yes, just make sure that you know exactly what you're supposed to be working on. As you know, in week 1, there's generally no labs or tutorials. It's just an introduction. Now, in terms of my introduction for Serious Games, I'm going to be discussing mainly the sort of format of the module, and then we'll possibly discuss how you people would prefer to be assessed this year. I realise that you can go away and implement games yourself, but it does sort of depend on what particular technology you've got access to. And you shouldn't have to fail a module because that's not accessible to you. So we shall see if you're wanting to create a serious game, then fair enough, or we can slightly alter the assessment so that it can be design or whatever. And we shall play it by ear. But anyway, it's going to be fine, I'm sure. Personal development planning, you should very much be into that already. So there's a few sort of organisations, you've seen all of this sort of thing before. You know full well that in order to get a job in the games industry, if you desire to go in that direction, you need some form of e-portfolio to demonstrate your personal development. Having a degree is now no longer a distinguisher, and you need to be able to show evidence of your work. having a number of degrees is now no longer a distinguisher. These are very, very, very difficult times for people. A lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of people on furlough. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were telling me that their son had 2 degrees, and you're going, oh, really? Just 2, really? That's fantastic. And were unable to find any form of job. So I would say that you've got to put everything into this year in order to give yourself the best chance. And still, I mean, you could end up going on to sort of postgraduate study if it doesn't work. So even people with 2 degrees, 3 degrees are finding it difficult. So bear that in mind. Here's a creation of a portfolio website. This is Ross Kilpatrick. He's a graduate last year. He's taking part in the transfuser competition and doing very, very well. So there's a sort of example of it. Leon Irving, he's once again a graduate from last year, got a first class honours degree, and he created his an ArtStation. Use of Twitter, I'm not really a big fan of Twitter, but I have used it before myself, and we do use it to promote the course. We do have a sort of computer games development Twitter feed, and it's got quite a few followers, I'm happy to say, despite the fact I only set it up last year. Okay, those are some of the mechanisms. You all know about LinkedIn. Presumably you've all sort of connected with Gavin on LinkedIn because he's a big fan of LinkedIn. I seem to have a LinkedIn profile by virtue of the fact that I sort of know Gavin as a sort of byproduct. So I have a LinkedIn profile as well, so feel free to connect with me. And what I will say is you just make sure it's a sort of professional sort of picture. You can be a little crazy and whatnot and have all these, stupid sort of game pieces of memorabilia like the Mario hat and, Han Solo t-shirts and all that sort of thing. If you want, I mean, you are in the creative industries. What you don't necessarily want is what we had a few years ago with a student, lying drunk in a bus. And then he sort of came to, I don't understand why I can't find employment. That's because people think you're a drunk. So, yay, simple. Okay, so LinkedIn, get on that as well. The Games Development Society, I'd imagine that you're all members of the Games Development Society already, or perhaps you have no interest in it at all, but it is useful for building contacts, networks, networking, etc. They have game nights and things like that. And industry events, so it's quite useful, and they'll be doing sort of virtual events as well. So if you're not a member of that already, and I suspect that probably a lot of you are, then contact the president. Okay. We have a computer games development Twitter page, so do follow us on that. And there's the Tribulation game that Ross Kilpatrick, Damien Slocum, Leon Irving, and Kenneth York, graduates from last year, have been working on, and it's an excellent game. I really couldn't be any more proud, to be honest. It's a NOS sort of game with procedural generation associated with it, and it's just absolutely excellent. So hopefully they win, and my course will be populated more and more. Okay, so engagement, aim for a grade A in absolutely everything, especially this year. This is a very, very important year in terms of distinction. You know that you have to do more, and of course the more successful students do get a job. This is particularly important for you guys this year because you have 120 credits to get. There are 600 available marks. The honours project is worth 200 marks, and there are 4 modules, each worth 100 marks each. Now, this is all outlined in section 7.5.1 of the Assessment Regulatory Framework, which I've given you a link to. So do analyse that and count up all of your credits and make sure that you're getting the distinction that you actually want. So you need 420 marks out of the 600 in order to get a first, 360 marks out of the 600 to get a 2-1, 300 marks to get a 2-2. Now this is easily calculatable. During the first trimester you should get some form of indication of how well you're sort of doing, and you should be able to get the marks of at least 2 modules there, and you should be able to add that up. Now, be honest with yourself and calculate that and say exactly how many points you need in order to get the distinction that you want. Over the years of running this program, I have noticed that there's a lot of, there have been a lot of students that have actually deluded themselves and said things like, well, I've got a B2, a B2, a B2, and a B2, and a B1, and a B2. I think I'll probably be in line for a first class. and you're going, no, a B2 is 50%. And you know full well what your score is from your banner output. So you know exactly how what percentage has been awarded to you at that stage. So don't delude yourself in that capacity. Be honest and say, well, I'm in line for this or I'm in line for that. Now, if you do a sort of look over your previous transcripts and add up all of your grades for degree year, divide it by 6. That's probably a good indication if you continue with the current sort of level of effort, what you're in line for. And do remember that honours year does get a little bit more difficult. Now, I'm not trying to scare anyone or anything like that, but this is a year to sort of take it seriously. I have, last year there was a lot of first classes because of the COVID-19 situation. There were a number of 2-1s and there was 1 third class, and really that was due to lack of effort and probably because the person should not have really come into the course at that point, or should have calculated the degree year modules and made an informed decision to either cut their losses and take the degree, or proceed and up the pace a little bit. Okay. Do think about that. So it'll be a mixture of courseworks, be practical courseworks mainly, and possibly some class tests. There may be a few things associated with engagement, and there may be some class tests in order to get the marks up or something like that, or enhance engagement in the modules this year. Late coursework, once again, is up to 10%. If you're late 1 week, 10%. And if you're later than that, then you may get a 0 or 0 marks awarded. So do bear that in mind. This is a regulation of the university, as it always has been. Whenever a lecturer penalises you 10%, it's not a personal thing in any way, shape or form. It's because it is a regulation. I personally don't particularly care about it, but some people do, and they will penalise you, or they will not mark something if you hand it in late. So do bear that in mind. It's all to do with the regulatory framework, nothing personal against yourself. Okay, you can request extensions, but that is another grey area. Okay, plagiarism, particularly honours year, don't do it. Now, there is bigger scope, a larger scope for plagiarism this year, because you do have a great big huge monstrous dissertation to write, and that could very well be people leaving things to the last minute. We haven't really had a lot of cases of plagiarism. Now, it's up to the individual academic whether they wish to. What happens is we put the dissertations through Turnitin, and a report will come back which is astonishingly accurate, and then the academic can then analyse that and say whether they consider it to be high plagiarism. Now, if they wish, they can take you to a plagiarism panel. Now, that can actually result in expulsion from the course if it's serious enough. I've only ever had to deal with plagiarism once. And I just said, basically, look, you can either take that out or I will give you a C, and that will be that, because you're not really particularly trying, you're just duplicating work. How does that sound? And then, of course, they took it out and that was it. So it depends on how the individual academic wishes to deal with it. Personally, I don't really have time for plagiarism panels. It's like a court case and it's really quite farcical. But if an academic decides to take you to one because you've committed plagiarism, it can be very, very serious, and it can completely derail your entire academic career. So don't do it. That's the point, okay? Fabulous. Okay, grades. You know the grading system already. Really, you're aiming for A3 and above in all things this year. So in order to get your first class, you know all about these things. It's in the guidelines again. Once again, section 7.5. I think 7.5.1. I'm not sure. 7.5.1 is the distinctions, but there is a grading system in the regulatory framework, which is exactly that. So you can look at it anyway. Okay. Feedback. You'll be given lots of feedback on your work this year. Every time we have a meeting, it's feedback every time, because students don't really necessarily know what feedback is. Gavin and I generally work quite hard through the Christmas holidays. We barely get a Christmas holiday actually, and particularly for serious games. I will probably provide you with pages of feedback for that. My marking scheme is generally as watertight as a mermaid's brassiere, and I never, ever, ever confront a student and give them feedback without knowing exactly where all the marks come from. If you can actually manage to get further marks out of me, then you're doing quite well. Doesn't generally happen though, but you know, it's supposed to be a meeting of minds and for you to draw my attention to things that I may have missed. But you will get detailed feedback, and that's what it is. Apparently, we're getting quite low ratings for feedback. So every mark is feedback, every conversation we have is feedback, and you'll get copious amounts of it. Your feedback to us this particular year, you've got to fill out the NSS, and that's to improve the course. It says that we pay great attention to these, and we do pay great attention to these. The amount of meetings that I've actually got to attend as program lead to address all of these little things that are put in, and there are things that need to be improved about the course, but particularly I would say some of the technology in the labs which wouldn't apply to us this year. But other things, you know, they are taken quite seriously. They have complained about 2 lecturers in the past. I've since removed them because I'm insane that way. And what we want is constructive feedback or fair feedback, I would say, because we have had things in the past saying, you know, this lecturer should die for doing this sort of thing, and we're not wanting that. I mean, we're trying to be slightly adult about it. So we're quite happy to receive great feedback and happy to act upon it. Equality and diversity, the university has policies to promote these things, and basically is to treat everyone with respect. There's no room for discrimination of any way, shape or form. Personally, I think that game students are generally quite cool, so I've never really had to deal, apart from one bullying case, which I've got to say I resolved rather quickly, but only one during all these years, and as I say, we're quite a cool bunch anyway, so for that really. If things are going wrong, you can put in extenuating circumstances. Do familiarise yourself with these guidelines. What happens with extenuating circumstances? That you more or less nullify your grade, and it's to deal with things like, you know, if you're unable to sit an exam or unable to sit a coursework within 48 hours of submission or things like that, then there are options. You can take longer, you can move to part-time, you can suspend your studies if things are going wrong. The thing to remember is that if things are starting to go awry, you need to come and speak to me immediately, or you need to speak to you know, someone on the course in order to make sure that this gets resolved. What you're not wanting to do is disappear for a year or two and then come back and say, what are my options? Because it just causes difficulty. Eventually your academic transcript starts to look like Swiss cheese, and you're really not doing yourself any good. I understand that people have issues and things like that that are continuously ongoing, but you're just not confronting reality when you disappear for a year and things like that. So best to deal with these things early. I'm relatively approachable, and I don't really think there's any particular you would be surprised at the amount of problems that people have come me with over the years, and I don't really think there's any scope for being stumped, put it that way. So if you're having difficulties with anything of a sort of personal nature, I'm quite happy to listen to anything that's upset you at all, okay, in confidence, of course. So you might need to change module, that sort of thing, or anything like that. So let me know about that as well. Program leaders are the only people that can actually assist you in changing modules, so you need to sort of come to me about that sort of thing anyway. Okay. If you're failing assessments, it's not the end of the world. They say that it's not the end of the world, but it's the beginning of the end of the world, put it that way. No, it's not that bad. It is salvageable, but you get so many chances at resitting assessments, and it's all in the regulations, and it's all there now. I've seen quite a few people over the years that have been unfocused and decided to make a bit of a mockery of the system. And one person in particular had so little of each degree, switching from computer games technology to computer games development, and didn't actually have sufficient of the core modules of either degree to get any form of qualification from it. So ended up being given a combined studies award. If you end up with a core module in this and you can't progress, or you have no further attempts in a core module, you can't be awarded the computer games development degree. So you've got to be very, very careful about that. It's not like sitting a degree in an American movie where they just sort of decide, oh, make up the credits and I'll make it up here in some other course. It doesn't really work. So that's why I'm sort of emphasizing it to you, that the program specification in the regulatory framework is like a sort of contract, and you've got to be very, very aware of that. So when you start to sort of fail things, you've got to make sure that you do those resets, or you do them at the reset, particularly in honours year. There's really no scope for failing in honours year. Otherwise, you're going to sort of mess it up, perhaps. So not the end of the world, but try not to do it too often. Otherwise, you may find that the system will beat you, and it will, eventually sort of make you exit. So probably a bit heavy-handed what I said there, but it is sort of true. I've seen quite a lot of people come a cropper when they can't actually, complete their degree or complete their honours because they haven't got the sufficient credits, and it is a crying shame. So be aware of that. Don't abuse the system too much. You have 3 resets for each thing, and that should be enough. I've got to say, in my day, you weren't even allowed any resets at honours year. If you failed one thing at honours level, and there were 8 modules, not 6, then you didn't get an honours distinction at all. So the education system in this country has gotten more and more lax, but that's rolling with the times, and that's why I'm an old dinosaur. Okay, so it's not the end of the world, but just make sure that you don't fail too much. Okay. Extenuating circumstances and appeals. You can appeal as well. That's another sort of procedure that you can go through. And appealing is really if you think you've been treated unfairly through the entire run of a module or something like that, and you need a lot of evidence in order to make that appeal sort of happen. It's not as if you stamp your feet and then say, oh, we were treated unfairly, and then everyone's grade gets increased to an A. Again, it's not like an American movie. It's not like Dead Man's Curve. So have a look at the guidance there. Complaints. There is a sort of official sort of complaints procedure. We would prefer, if there are complaints, to go off a formal route, an informal route. It would be better if you just sort of approach the lecturer or someone that you've probably got a bit of a gripe against. I seriously doubt this will happen this year. We've all been pretty cool, and we're sort of slightly isolated in a sense, but there is a complaints procedure. If you have a particular difficulty with me, for example, I would much prefer that you just come and tell me in an informal capacity. Lecturers tend to be very, very reflective and think, oh, I should possibly not have said that, or I could have dealt with that quite differently, and we adjust our behaviour in order to sort of be better individuals and better teachers. So I would say that the majority of us are relatively approachable in that sense, and I don't really think that we offend people deliberately or anything like that. But anyway, if it does go down a formal route, the way to do it is go to the lecturer, then go to the module coordinator, go to the program leader, if that's another thing, or you can go to the head of the division or the head of the school. There is a complaints procedure that you can follow and go to the website, but do be aware that if you actually put in a formal complaint, you can't just simply put in a complaint, sign a fake name, run away and expect someone to get fired. It's not the way it works. You've actually got to see that through, be an adult about it, and confront the person or confront them at some stage and say how you would like that to be resolved. That's the way complaints work in the real world, and that's the way it sort of works here. So I've actually had a formal complaint put in against me before, and what happened was the person signed a fake name, didn't show up, expected to say all these things about me and get me fired. They in fact got me promoted. That was fine. But the complaint didn't hold any form of scrutiny. Okay. So do be aware that if you go down the formal complaints procedure, it will be sort of dealt with, but you've got to see it through. And that goes for members of staff and other students as well. We've had complaints in against other students which were easily resolvable. You may, for example, put something up on Facebook or something that offends another student, and they may go into the formal complaints procedure, and it may be that the school has to take action there. Okay, so support, we have things on welfare, enabling support, counselling, effective learning tutors, and of course for academic advice and possibly for some sort of any other advice. I mean, I'm quite a sort of approachable programme leader, and I think that I will help you with anything that I can in any way, shape or form. So very, very little surprises me. I've been alive for many decades. So any issue at all, I'll try to point you in the right direction. Okay. General information, there is a sort of university calendar with all the dates and everything. Exam dates, they don't really apply to you, I don't think. There's regulations, forms, the student hub as well. You can always email them, but they will probably send it to me. So there's the banner system. This was really for the first years, all about that. Good funding. There is a UWS budgeting module apparently. So if you're having difficulty with funding, do bear in mind that if you're having difficulty with technology this year, I think the university has been given a rather large grant to help people that don't have the appropriate facilities at home. So do look into that. Student representatives, it would be good to have a student representative from each year, and that's to attend the student staff liaison group meetings so that you feel as if you have a voice, and you do have a voice, and it's best to raise these things. I would imagine that they will be done virtually this year, and it's to raise, basically the student rep goes around everyone, as you know, in the course and raises any issues with the programme leader and the head of the division and the student staff liaison representative or chair. It's chaired by a student, which is always fun. And it looks good in the CV, and you get free lunches sometimes. So yay! So do think about who you want to be your representative this year out of the entire honours group, and let me know who you wish that to be. Okay. Library. I think there's limited access to the library this year. You could get access to the library. Probably more important to have access to this year because of the research required for the honours project. So it might be a good idea to look into that. I think that it's going to be limited access to the library, but generally, I mean, I suppose computing people do have other means, shall we say, of getting the research materials. Okay, so do have a think about that. Careers and skills, you can probably go to there's a video there, and you can go to the careers and sort of skills department in order to possibly pursue the correct direction. Although I suspect that most of you have selected the direction that you're wanting to go in, whether that's into further academic study after this year, or whether it's into industry to get a job. I assume by now that the majority of you know what you're wanting to do, or maybe not, but that's all right. So you can go to the careers and skills department as well. So what now? I would say that it's best just to make sure that you're enrolled in all the correct modules, that you are on the right modules, or the modules that you want, and that you're attending the correct modules. By that I mean either attending synchronously, whether it's on the timetable, or if it's asynchronously, that you're working towards these things. Now, honours year is a big horrendous year. I can barely even remember my honours year because I was too busy working through the entire thing, either working on the project work or the coursework, so things like that, or doing a sort of part-time job at that time. So just make sure that you're working on these things, and it should be like a job, really. So I mean, it should be a good 35 hours a week at least, in order to funnel that into your studies to get the result you're wanting. And this is really, regardless of what it manifests itself as this year, this is really all about the amount of work that you do, and you will reap the benefit of that. So just to finally sort of close that off, I've just made this short video to put on the short video. Oh my God, I've prattled on for 54 minutes. This video to put on to YouTube in case anyone sort of misses the induction, is unclear about what they're doing. And then we'll start the classes on the 5th of October, or that's when the official start date for the course is. So all the classes will be starting subsequently after that. Serious games will run on a Tuesday. The computer games honours will start this Monday at 10 o'clock, I believe. And then the rest of the modules will start to follow suit. So I wish you a very, very good year. And as I say, if you need anything at all, then just feel free to lift the phone, and I'm happy to discuss it with you. Okay, right. Catch you all later then.